Rutherford weather video channels as we continue to track this storm as it
Get 10-point details on severe and impactful weather in Rutherford County with Rutherford Weather.
A severe thunderstorm watch is in effect for Rutherford County.
Listen to Rutherford weather updates on WGNS and watch on YouTube and Facebook by following at RUCO Weather. That's RUCO Weather.
When the weather turns bad, minutes, even seconds matter.
This is an early heads up for southern Rutherford County.
Rutherford Weather brings you live radar and expert meteorologist insight, giving you the early heads up when storms threaten.
A lot of areas are going to see some impacts from this storm.
From analysis to live camera views, we keep you informed before, during, and after the storm.
I think the vast majority of the hail with this now is going to be quarter to perhaps golf ball size.
Rutherford Weather. Stay ahead of the storm.
WGNS Murfreesboro, W270AF Murfreesboro, W263AI Murfreesboro, Smyrna. We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the WGNS Action Line, talking with Rutherford County newsmakers about what matters most to you. Now your host, Brian Barrett.
Well, good morning. Glad you're with us here about 18 minutes after, and it is the Action Line from News Radio, WGNS 101.9, 100.5, wgnsradio.com. Big G TV got you going this morning on a Monday, and to kick off our week on the Action Line, Dr. Craig McCabe is joining us today. And Dr. McCabe, enjoyable ride in this morning, I hope?
Oh, yeah. The traffic wasn't very bad, and I think that's because when the schools are off for the summer, I think traffic goes down about 20% in Murfreesboro. and
when MTSU's out of town, too, right?
Exactly. That's one of them. And so that's beneficial to all, I believe. We appreciate that. And it gives us a nice little breather, and everybody had a nice weekend where they were able to get out and work in the yard. Hopefully they didn't have too many allergy spells, but if you have any problems with allergies affecting your sinuses and your eyes, or maybe you're having difficulties with your glasses, with contacts, maybe you or a loved one has glaucoma or macular degeneration, problems with dry eyes always seems to be very common. Maybe someone you know or yourself has an upcoming cataract surgery and you want to discuss the different lens implants available to you and how your vision is affected by those for the rest of your life. Any of those kind of issues affecting your eyes, what have you, please give us a call or text us, and we'll take any and all comers and do the best we can.
Yeah, 615-893-1450 is the number. I've got the text line up if you want to hit us up there. Phone calls as well, but I have noticed, Dr. McCabe, that over the years we've kind of transitioned to, people love to talk still, but it's mostly by text, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It used to be that you would buy your phone, and I guess you had to be born before the beginning of this century, but you would buy your phone according to how good the reception was and how clear it was and how comfortable it was to talk to each other. And now that's like the last thing on your phone, Now it's texting and social media and emails and messages and emojis, right?
Yeah.
So our phones have totally change that way. I'll tell you, one of the ways I use it that I really need is kind of like a peripheral brain. So any events I've got coming up, anything that I've got to remember, I put that in on my calendar. And on my patients that maybe forget to use their eye drops twice a day or use it in the evening or whatever, then I'll have them set an alarm on their phone, just like an alarm you would get up in the morning, and it will say, whatever the name of their eye drop is or whatever pill they need to take or whatever. And they find that once they do that and set it up, very useful. So there's a little pearl for anyone that maybe has difficulty being compliant, taking their medication as they should.
I guess that would be a recurring alarm, like daily, or if it's twice a day, you do it in the morning and evening, you would set 2 separate alarms.
Yeah, it'd definitely be daily. Yeah. And if you need it twice a day, then that. Usually most people are pretty good in the morning. It's usually the afternoon or evening ones that get forgotten.
Yeah, I can understand that. I have to remind myself to do certain little things during the day, especially if it's not something that you normally do, just to be prepared. So it's amazing how we're reliant on that. In your office, I'm sure that you've seen a change from, the way you contact patients even. Do you utilize texting for patients, or how do you do that?
Well, we have, I think, the general thing that most physician offices have, and it's kind of a blast, about 3 days before your appointment, just appointment reminders, and they may be text or emails or phone calls, really whatever their preference is, and you can set that in the computer. But it is helpful, once again, as a reminder. And, I don't even get those reminder cards when I go to my doctor's office. I just put it into my cell phone. I guess those are starting to go the way like the phone books, right? Who uses a phone book anymore? I mean, hardly anybody. They used to put coupons in them. I remember the back page or something to try to get people to use the phone books more. The paper's kind of going the same way. Everything is getting digital because it is faster. Certainly.
This is how many years for you, Dr. McCabe, as an eye doctor here in Murfreesboro?
25.
25. I know. I was trying to think back. This is year 32 for me here in some form or fashion. And I just always remember Dr. Craig McCabe, the eye doctor. So that's pretty remarkable, and obviously seen lots of changes here in town, in our community. But how many advances over the last 25 years have you seen in just your industry? I mean, we're doing remarkable things.
Everybody, all specialties are doing better than they were.
Sure.
Kind of, I think the last frontier of medicine is the healing, the replacement, the growth of the central nervous system, the spine, and the brain. And those are the only tissues in the body that we can't replace or won't regenerate. Every other tissues we can. So that is kind of the last frontier of medicine. And the eyeball's involved in that because the retina and the optic nerve are part of the brain, actually. And that develops, as a developing fetus in the mother's uterus. And so the eye is actually an outpouching of the brain and the spinal cord. And so when those get damaged, you can't get them better. And so things like glaucoma, that is damage to the optic nerve, but it first damages the cells in the retina. And so one of the things is, we have always had the latest equipment for the earliest detection of any of these kind of eye diseases. And boy, that's really important in these diseases that you can't cure or make better. The best we can do on these diseases for which there's no treatment for, which is those of the central nervous system mostly, is to try to slow it down. And so it doesn't matter whether it's glaucoma. We have the pressure drops to try to reduce your pressure, which has been shown to slow down the development and progression of glaucoma. We also have the lasers that we do in the office for that. And then we also have the micro-invasive techniques, which are much safer. You heal faster from it, smaller incisions, all those things for glaucoma treatments that need a more advanced pressure-lowering technique that are done in the operating room. And macular degeneration, right? Diabetic retinopathy. These are things that affect the retina, and these are things you want to catch very early So in all these things, even though we've got these great machines now to diagnose them earlier than we could before, and medications to treat them better than we could before, still an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, like I always say, or my mama taught me. And that is, you need to, get your bottom in the doctor's office and get seen and get things taken care of. And make sure you're getting a thorough eye exam, not a quickie. That's not what you want once a year.
A lot of people may think, do I really need to do this every year? I think maybe sometimes, as you can see, I've been wearing glasses since I was in 8th grade. It's like, I can see just as well now as I could a year ago. Do I really need to go in? But you've just given quite a few examples here of why you should have that yearly exam.
Well, 95% of glaucoma in the U.S. you can't feel, and you don't notice. Macular degeneration, you do start to notice, but that's when it's well progressed. So, that's one of the common things, I guess, all the eye doctors here that treat patients. And we may ask them, well, you're having issues and stuff. Why didn't you come in sooner, for us to start treating this? And they say, well, it wasn't hurting me. I could see pretty good. So those are not the reasons to decline going to see your doctor. Fortunate, celebrate that. That's wonderful. But, you can't feel most of the time when your blood pressure's up. You can't feel when your cholesterol's up, yada, yada. It goes on and on and on. And you know what? Your doctors don't know either most of the time. They have to do blood work to test for it. Or they've got to do radiological imaging to see within the body to see these things. So don't think that you as a layman knows exactly what's going on in your body and things like this, when doctors don't even know. They have to test for it most of the time. They may have an idea, but still they got to track it down and go through the differential diagnosis and rule out the worst things first and all that. And the best thing you can do, I think, for you and your family is to make sure they're maintaining good health through regular visits to the proper physicians.
It was my eye doctor probably, 4 years ago, maybe longer, that and 100 pounds ago, that said, you're pre-diabetic. You need to go to the doctor. He was the one who told me that the very first thing, just from the exam. So very, very important. Dr. McCabe, I'm a new grandpa.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's a cutie. And just popped into my mind, we were talking about what can they see when they're first born? And, for the first week or week and a half, her eyes were closed. I mean, she just didn't open them very much. And then, it's a big world. But the last time I got to see her, boy, her eyes were bright and looking at everything. We're not born with our 20/20 vision, I'm assuming. And we don't come out of the womb with that. Is there a progression?
Well, yeah,
that
everything.
You can see? Yeah.
So the eyes don't finish developing till you're about 7 years old.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
It is.
But they come out. They're like one of the biggest things on your body. You see
know.
the babies. They're like all eyes. Yeah. The brain and the eyes are very large, right? Everything else on the body may be small because it's a baby, but those are pretty good size. And that's because they're that important. So the development of the eyes, starts, of course, when you're an embryo, and the brain and the eyes are one of the first things to develop, but it continues. And that's why kids that develop with a lazy eye, maybe they don't see well out of one eye. And sometimes it's obvious where the eye is turned in or out when they're little babies. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the eyes are perfectly aligned, but one eye is blurry. And those things can only be detected by an eye doctor. Now, they can be treated, and you can actually, because the brain and the eyes are still developing, get vision back at that time. But it's got to be treated before the age 7, because after that, the connections from the eye to the back of the brain, the occipital cortex, the vision cortex, are then pretty much permanent for the rest of your life. So you have this little time window, if you have a lazy eye or an eye problem like that as a child, to get that checked out. So starting early, eye appointments are important. And then later on, catching these diseases early are important. And when you go through probably after college to maybe the age 44, there's not that much that changes with most people's eyes. When you're in school, your head's in a book a lot, hopefully, and you're studying hard.
And a screen.
And you may get a change in your glasses prescription. Yeah. And all the video displays now, right, for that, whether it's a tablet or a monitor. And so there's a really hard pressure on your eyes then. But after that, when you're working, although many jobs now, people are on 2-3 monitors, 6 hours a day. So that has changed as well. But you can have changes during that time, but basically a lot's when you're growing up and a lot's when you're getting older. So during that time, if you've got no family history, you don't need glasses or contacts, and you're seeing well without pain, then yeah, you can probably go every 2.5 years to the eye doctor. But during those other times when they are changing, when problems do develop more commonly, frequently, then you should see the eye doctor more often, and probably once a year if you've got a family history of a significant eye disease, or your vision's changing, or you're having any eye symptoms, you should go in right away. If you get a rash or a cut or a sore or something aches a little bit, you may not have to go in and get that seen right away. But if all of a sudden you don't start seeing as well, or your eye really starts hurting, that's not something you say, I'll give that a week, see if it gets better. That's something you should make an appointment and go in and see right away.
Dr. Craig McCabe is with us this morning, the eye doctor that you hear on the radio once a month here and all throughout every day. I hear Dr. McCabe every day with some types of advice, so which is a great thing. We've got a couple of texts this morning. If you have a question, you can text 615-893-1450 if you want to talk to Dr. McCabe. He is here this morning. And we're going to get to those text questions in just a second. One more thing about the eyesight of infants. Can they see things as soon as they're born, or does it take several weeks for them to be able to focus in on, this is mom, or I'm trying to figure this out?
So that's interesting. The eyes are like a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And that image in a camera, due to lenses and the way optics work, the image is inverted, up and down, and reversed, left and right. So kind of like looking in a mirror, but also up and down. And that is exactly how we all see when we're first born for about 2 weeks. Wow. Everything we look at is upside down and reversed. And our brain, with our cerebellum and other inputs that tell us about gravity and the way things are, it flips it right around 2 weeks after birth. And then the baby starts to see the world the right side up,
as
the
intended.
way it is. Yeah. And so that's interesting. So when you talk about that, and then the vision is blurrier. You probably start out around 2200, and each week it gets better. And then when it flips, it refines it. It starts to get better even more. But you should still be able to fixate and follow, which means track, a light or something like that. Have pupillary reflexes where your pupils constrict to bright light, and that's part of some of the things that the OB or the pediatrician will check for immediately. Another thing that can be an ominous sign is the pupil's not a dark black, it's a white. That can indicate a very important tumor to catch, a cancer called retinoblastoma. So there's all these things why we need these great physicians to look at our babies and have their eyes develop normally, and fortunately 99.9% do, but we have childhood glaucoma. You know what the major symptom of childhood glaucoma is? It's tearing. It's
Really?
tearing, and all babies are crying.
Oh, sure.
Right? So you need to have a doctor look at these things. And then once it's good and you don't have any family history, then the regular pediatric appointments, get your immunizations. That's all important. Make sure you're on your milestones and all those things. And then as we get into, say, kindergarten or first grade, we should definitely have had an eye exam before that. It looks to see if we need glasses or anything like that, and everything's developing right. Every 2-3 years after that, and then of course when we usually it's good like when you enter the different layers of school, the different tiers, so you go from elementary, middle school, high school. Those are all good times to make sure that you're up on your vaccines, you've had a health exam. If you're going into sports, you've had that physical exam and the eye exams with it along the way. And then once you get into college, then if you have an issue, you typically are seeing an eye doctor because you know better and you need to go. And lots of times you want to wear contacts and such like that. And then, like I said, once you're in your probably middle 20s and on, then everything's pretty quiet for a while as long as you don't have any autoimmune diseases, which typically come on about that time. And those affect your eyes as well. And if you have those. And then once you hit your middle 40s, then you're talking about either reading glasses or bifocals. And then once you get into your 60s, then we're talking about cataracts and glaucoma, macular degeneration, all these other kind of things of aging like we've talked about. So there is a reason to see the eye doctor along the way, even if you can see fine and they feel fine.
I guess my first eye doctor or eye exam, I'm sure I had them before that, but the one I remember was in grade school when the Lions Club used to come out and test everybody in whatever grade that was, and you would get a report back, you need to go see the eye doctor or things are looking fine. So
and that's because they have, for our listeners that haven't experienced it or one of their kids or something.
I don't even know if they still do that or not. Maybe
we have a little camera thing that you can either look through like binoculars or from a distance away, and it, how you say, oh, that's like a deer's eyes in the headlights. You know how they reflect back and they glow? Well, we have cameras that do that as well, and we should get a nice even reflection back. And if we get one that looks like a half moon, or if we get one that looks like a donut reflection instead, that can indicate astigmatism or nearsightedness or farsightedness, and hence the need for glasses. Or it may show lack of that retinal reflex that we talked about, or that the eyes aren't lined up exactly right. And thank goodness we have these photo screeners that will measure our children's eyes. And sometimes that saves some kids' vision who really need it, that haven't gotten checked out by a doctor, or they're not getting as good at grades and then finds out they need glasses. What they're looking at is blurry, and now they get glasses and their grades go up. So these are all important things. And, sometimes it's not obvious, and that's why we need our medical physicians to help us out.
Dr. McCabe with us this morning. I've got, let's see, 1, 2.
Tell us one of these texts
3,
here.
4. Well, I'm going to have to take a break here, but when we come back from the break, I'm going to get to all of them. One is, why do my eyes burn when I wear my readers? We're going to talk about someone saw some glasses on Facebook. That's supposed to be the next big thing. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you'll have something to say about that. And more questions for Dr. McCabe as we continue on the action line this morning. Our number is 615-893-1450. Call, text, let us know what you want to talk to Dr. McCabe about this morning. 615-893-1450. It's the action line from News Radio WGNS.
Do you love WGNS Radio? Well, now you can watch it too. WGNS Big GTV brings your favorite radio shows live and on demand. From breaking news and community talk to Rutherford County's top local sports. We've got it all right at your fingertips. Watch anytime, anywhere. WGNS Big G TV, where radio comes to life.
Hi, this is Amanda from Animal City, inviting your family to come do business with my family. You can find us at 919 Northwest Broad Street here in Murfreesboro. Have you ever thought you'd like to have a piece of living, moving art in your home? If so, come take a stroll through our relaxing aquarium section. Discover how you can enjoy that tranquil feeling every day at home. Whether you have a saltwater, freshwater, or brackish aquarium, we've got you covered here at Animal City. Animal City, 919 Northwest Broad Street here in Murfreesboro.
This is Peter Demas, and our family is inviting your family to come eat with us at Demas's Restaurant. Demas's has had a bar when we opened 35 years ago, and we've done the exact same thing with our bar menu that we've done with our food menu. We get higher quality items, higher quality cocktails. Again, some people just want a drink with their meal, where they might be able to get a drink to complement their meals. You need to check it out, so come on over right now. Demas's Restaurant on Northwest Broad Street. We really focus on value.
CBS News Brief. Anti-immigration crackdown demonstrations have quieted down in Los Angeles after 3 days and nights of violent protests. CBS's Elise Preston is there.
National Guardsmen are standing on the ready in front of the federal building. They are armed with shields and batons there to protect the federal building, which is a detention center.
Police say they've arrested dozens of demonstrators. Scientists at the National Institutes of Health have signed off on a letter criticizing Trump administration cuts to public health research. They cite their new leader, Jay Bhattacharya's confirmation hearing pledge to be open to dissent, calling it the very essence of science. Trade talks getting underway in London between U.S. and Chinese negotiators. The BBC's Stephen McDonnell.
The fact that these two very high-powered negotiating teams are having these talks, that is at least a step in the right direction.
CBS News Brief. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
For the love of Tennessee at dawn. For the love of the fight. For the love of having nowhere else you'd rather be. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe.
The Action Line on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
We're back on the Action Line. Want to remind you that we're taking your questions for Dr. Craig McCabe. 615-893-1450. Call, text. We'll get them on here for you this morning. Our birthday club winner is Jana King. Jana receives the banana pudding from Slick Pig Barbecue as Jana celebrates her 28th birthday today. Also, today's good neighbor of the day, Bruce Hall, for being so helpful and caring while preparing taxes. Such a gentleman, Bruce Hall. That's Craig's Tax Service on Heritage Park Drive. You know where that is, I think, Dr. McCabe, don't you?
It's literally a stone's throw.
Yeah.
He's my neighbor there.
So he's our good neighbor of the day today. Dr. McCabe with us this morning. So let's go down our list of text questions so far, and we'll sneak yours in. But you better hurry. We've only got about 10, 15 minutes left. Why do my eyes burn when I wear my readers? That is the first question that came up this morning.
Well, hopefully they haven't been sitting in jalapeno sauce. But no, seriously, it's not the readers, I believe, that are making your eyes burn. It's the fact that you're doing a lot of reading, and hence you wear your readers for that.
And are you looking at reading a screen or a book? And I'm sure that has an effect.
Well, they're both pretty much the same.
Really?
Yeah. It doesn't matter whether you're looking at a book, your phone, a tablet, a monitor screen, what have you. Whenever we intently focus on something, and this has been shown in a lot of research, we only blink half as much. And blinking is what remoistens our eyes. We have glands that are just under the eyebrow called lacrimal glands. They're the major source of moisture to our eyes, and they're secreted through ducts that, as we blink, squeezes out of those ducts onto the ocular surface. And then when we open our eyes, it creates a vacuum in a duct that runs down the nose corners of our eyes called the tear duct. So that's a common misconception, is that the tear duct actually takes your tears away like the bathtub drain. It's not like the faucet that puts the moisture in. That's the lacrimal gland underneath the eyebrows. So as you blink, it moistens the eyes, and as you open your eyes, it creates a vacuum in that duct from pressure changes, and it sucks the tears down, all mechanically. You know, no batteries needed. So it's very interesting. So many things in our body happen because of physics, optics, changes like that cause things to happen.
So the tear down the cheek, is that because the drain is full and it's trying to send too much? Is that why?
So just like your bathtub can overflow,
okay,
so can your eyes if the drainage system cannot handle that volume of the moisture made.
It's a flash flood event.
It'll puddle up and then it'll spill over, just like it would spill over the lip of the bathtub. So the same thing happens there. Now, there's 3 types of tears. There are tears that we normally make every minute of every day, and as we blink, they moisten the eye and keep it moist, and all mucous membranes have to be moist. And the eye needs a good tear film to be able to see well. And when it doesn't have a good tear film and it can dry out, the eye is full of nerves, corneal sensory nerves, which help to protect us. And that, boy, they let us know if our eyes are dry, and they burn. They feel scratchy, gritty, sandy, and our vision gets blurry. Maybe the white part of our eyes gets a little pinkish. Those are all signs of a dry eye problem. And so you may have a dry eye problem, and you like to read, and that makes it worse, and your eyes feel burny, scratchy, gritty, sandy, intermittently blurry, and you have to back up and close your eyes. And lots of people rub their eyes, but you shouldn't. Don't rub your eyes. That makes things worse, actually. Releases cytokines, chemicals that cause further irritation that you don't want and make them more red. What you need to do instead is put an artificial teardrop, 1 drop in both eyes. Close your eyes for about 30 seconds. Often after that, it feels better. Now, if you've done this a few times a day and it doesn't, then you've got a problem more than dry eyes that just over-the-counter artificial teardrops will handle, or some other issue, or both. And so you need to go see your ophthalmologist and get that looked at. And there's very good treatments for that now in 2025. We have a lot of good eye treatments to help you with things.
Well, thanks to phone number that ends in 0680 for that question here this morning. And another question from 7312. She says, it's got to be a she because it says, I'm a new grandma too. The question is...
Well, not necessarily, but...
well, I guess.
Let's hope so.
Right, let's hope so. The color change in the eyes. She's actually got 2 questions, which are pretty interesting. The baby's eye color, do they change from when they're born until later on, that they've noticed that they were born with brown eyes and now have green eyes or blue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There was that song, Don't It Make Your Brown Eyes Blue?
Oh,
but
yeah.
This is when you're younger. Doesn't it make your blue eyes either green, hazel, or maybe brown or honey colored? And that is because the color part of your eye, the iris, by the way, the plural of iris is not irises, it's irides. And that's your little trivial question for today. Anyways, when your irides turn color from when you're first born till about, 2-3 months, you'll see them change color. And that is because the color of the eye is determined by the amount of pigment that's not on the front part of the eye, or not on the front part of the iris, but on the rear side, the back side of the iris, so you can't see it. But the more pigment there, the darker the eye color. And that's where it goes from blue, which is hardly any. People who have no pigment in them, they can have like reddish or pinkish almost colored eyes. And then the next step with just a little bit of pigment's blue. The next step is a green. The next one is green with gold flecks, maybe a little blue in other colors, and that's hazel. And then after that, you get more darker colors, so you go to the honey and the brown. And so that's determined by the amount of pigment, and the amount of pigment is determined by genes on our somatic chromosomes. And so oftentimes you need to have maybe 2 blue-eyed people, because it's a recessive gene or allele, to have a baby that has blue eyes. Although there is a 1 out of 4 chance if you're both heterozygotes, and my friends that have taken genetics, they remember that. They're Punnett squares, Mendelian genetics from college. But anyways, then 2 people that are not, as long as they've still have that allele, there's a 1 out of 4 chance they could have a baby that's like that. And so it's the same way, but that's governed by that. And you may have heard stories in the news of these people that can turn your brown eyes blue. And they do that with lasers that pound the iris, and they actually pound it so hard that it jackhammers the pigment off the backside. And let me caution everyone not to do that, because it's been shown that a significant proportion of these people, the amount of pigment blocks the drain holes in their eyes, and they develop what's called pigmentary glaucoma, which can be a permanent damaging thing where you can lose vision. And so don't do any of that.
Well, just your description alone wants to keep me away from that. Yeah. So grandmama, I see here at 7312. The second question was, at what age do you suggest parents have their child's first eye exam with an eye doctor?
So they should have one there pretty soon after they're born, to make sure there's no immediate issues there. And that's usually done by the pediatrician that sees the child real soon after birth. And then they should have one, say, by 2 years old, if there's a family history of any kind of early eye problems. And then they should have one about 4 or 5 years old when they're going into kindergarten, first grade.
Okay. So thanks for that question. 615-893-1450. We've only got maybe time to get these last 2 in, unfortunately. But this question is about glasses. There apparently is this video going around on Facebook. Let me see, who is this from? 7377, that you buy this pair of glasses. I'm trying to paraphrase. I was reading it a second ago.
Is this ones where you turn a little knob on the side and it focuses them?
Apparently, it's like a one-size-fits-all glasses that says this is the future.
So these will change the shape of the lens there from a little bit far-sighted to a little bit nearsighted. It doesn't correct astigmatism. Mm-hmm. And it's not a quality lens, so to speak, but it can help you focus. But it's not going to be like a proper pair of glasses, so to speak. And also, I remember, gosh, and this might be before your time, but when I was a kid growing up, I'd look at the comics and they'd have, what was his name? Bazooka Joe, bubblegum, right? And you could get these glasses where they were inexpensive and you wouldn't need a prescription and all that, and they had all these little pinholes in them. And if you look through a pinhole, you could focus pretty well. And that's true. And we actually use that in the office when we're checking people's vision, is we'll flip this little lever down and there'll be a bunch of little holes they can look through, and that'll tell us if glasses can improve their vision. However, you got no side vision with it. Just central, so you can bump into things left and right. You certainly wouldn't want to drive in it. So you'll hear of these gimmicks, and they always have limitations. But if you want a pair of glasses just for readers, that'll do it as well. Although reader glasses are pretty cheap now, so $10 and such. So I would stay with good glasses. Vision's too important for driving and work and all the sports and fun things we like to do, seeing the grandkids, all that.
Yeah, I'm just amazed at all this stuff that's out there. Apparently, we have this person's name inside our text system here. So it's Jean, who is asking about allergy medication. She has really bad allergies. I guess Jean could be Jean. That's female Jean. Anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. Allergy medication, and it's not really working well right now, and she really feels this in her eyes, especially after maybe being outside or mowing. Are there extra things that she should be doing for her eyes, I think is the gist of the question here.
Well, one of the safest things you can do is just use artificial teardrops, 1 drop in both eyes 4 times a day. That helps to wash out the pollens or the allergens. And if that doesn't take care of it, you should see, come give us a call, come see us, see an ophthalmologist. There are great treatments now for allergies, both sinus and ocular, and we can hook you up with those. But the main one is prescription, so you have to see a physician for that.
All right, Dr. McCabe, it's been fun talking to you this morning. Where can we find you if someone listening this morning is thinking, you know what, I've heard him on the air for years and years. I want an eye doctor that, maybe looking for a new eye doctor, maybe haven't been. Where would we find you and how could we contact you?
Well, any of the usual ways. We're on social media. We're on the web, McCabeVisionCenter.com. Our phone number 615-904-9024. We've got a great staff. They'd love to help you. And if you want to have the best vision you can have after cataract surgery, where you can see without glasses, or glaucoma treatment without medications, all these kind of things, we would love to help you out with them. And I hope everyone has a great day. Enjoy the summer. Wear your eye protection when you're outside doing things, and make sure you get your regular eye exams.
Absolutely. Dr. Craig McCabe, our guest this morning on the Action Line. And if you missed part of the program, we'll have it podcast here really shortly at wgnsradio.com under Action Line and podcast. Tomorrow at this time, St. Thomas Rutherford President and CEO Daphne David will be our guest right here on WGNS.
Portions of our programming have been pre-recorded. The Good Neighbor Network, WGNS.